Hey YouTube, today I'm here to talk about one of my favorite movie trilogies coming to an end, the Hobbit trilogy, and this is my review of the final one, The Battle of Five Armies. And it's one of the movies it's weird because I looked on IMDb, I just thought it was fresh in my mind, and I'm definitely going to see it again. And I looked on IMDb, and although I rarely use it as an actual rankings thing, a lot of movies are higher than they should be, a lot of movies are lower than they should be, and so forth. But I write reviews on there and stuff sometimes. And I looked, and what do you know? The newest one has a 7.9, which is still pretty high. But when you compare it to the rest of the trilogy, and the Lord of the Rings in general, they all are on the top 250, for better or worse. All three Lord of the Rings movies have really high ratings, and both Desolation of Smaug and Unexpected Journey, both of them I think are still on the top 250 list. Although I could be wrong. But in any case, that was really weird. But then again, I guess it's not that surprising. It's going in already, some people hated it, and I think this book, this trilogy is that I've read the book, so I'm very familiar with the source material. And of course, they took a whole lot less, since The Hobbit is it's a much shorter book than Lord of the Rings, and they expanded into 3 movies. So with that, people complain over bloated, and then they also complain about just nitpicking because you compare it with Lord of the Rings, and then you compare it with this one, and I can say this is definitely. It's odd you try and compare. I mean, Lord of the Rings had a lot of characters, but this one has, dare I say, almost a whole lot more, but definitely more protagonist. But yeah, let me just delve right into this. It's the only way to properly do it anyways. So to start off, I enjoyed the movie quite a bit. Now, people who have read the book know exactly how it's going to be divided up, and then basically, by this point, after Desolation of Smaug, the only major events that need to happen in the book are the death of Smaug, the battle, of course, which in the book you don't see any of it pretty much. You just hear about it afterwards, after Bilbo is awakened after his head injury, and then, of course, the journey home and a few sad parts as they all say goodbye. Now, the book was good, however, they do that trick, I think, at least twice in the book. I think there's a major battle, and then Bilbo gets knocked out, and he wakes up to the aftermath, which for a children's book is fine, I suppose. But you know what? I'm on the side of, I like people who take source material and add more to it, and actually do something good with it. It can be really impressive, and I actually like what they did here. But the thing is, this movie, even though it's definitely 2 hours and something minutes, it actually feels a whole lot shorter, faster pace than the first two, most definitely. I'll say the first movie definitely did have some overblown, not overblown, but I'd say it did feel a little bloated for how little actually happened in the first one. I think Desolation of Smaug was pretty much almost perfection in my eyes, so let's not even go there. But this one actually ran by at a pretty quick pace, while also keeping everything that was in there was pretty relevant to the story, I'd say. Now, the performances to me I think they were great. I think every performance was very spot on. Let's take a look at my notes here, make sure I don't get anything wrong. Yeah, I think Martin Freeman played it very well, Bilbo. Ian McKellen, he was pretty good. It wasn't as much as I thought it would be, but it's about what I expected. Richard Armitage as Thorin, he was pretty good. I was wondering how they were going to play it, and I loved it. I loved the way he did it. He was very dark, very threatening, and just like all of them, it was very quotable. It was just awesome. Now, of course, here comes the whole love story arc, which we all knew. It was kind of silly, but I came to kind of like it in Desolation of Smaug. All I did definitely feel was a weak spot, the whole interspecies thing, which you pretty much know is doomed. And if you're a book reader, you already know how that ends. Which, oh yeah, I guess I should say it. I guess I should have been said this, but spoilers. Feely and Keely, and Thorin, they're all bound to die, so you already know that storyline's going, pretty much. However, though, I did enjoy the ride, and I know one major problem people say with this movie is you don't feel that connected to the characters. I actually did. During the whole battle scene, you know, I knew what was going to happen. My heart was thumping because it was just incredible, and then you know what's going to happen, you just don't know how and when, because the book was so vague about it anyways. So it was just great. You actually didn't know when it was going to happen, and when it happened, though, it tugged on your heartstrings. I was pretty enthralled with it. Now, as far as story goes, this one blows you away because there's a lot of story to it, but also, I guess it wouldn't be a stretch to say the movie really is technically like one long fight, kind of. Once the battle, well, there's a lot of build up, but once the battle gets started, it basically doesn't stop. And that's one thing I was amazed it balanced pretty well in between the little drama scenes and the whole intense struggle with Thorin's, mental state. And yeah, it was really well done. I know people come out to CGI in these movies a little too much, but I think in this one it was balanced out pretty well. I actually liked how everything looked, and he really brought that whole battle to life for me. It was just, everything looked great. Now, I guess I should go to the beginning, because, my god, let's be all honest here, one of the highlights from the second film was Smaug. One of my favorite characters ever. After just reading the book and then seeing it on screen was just incredible. It was just to die for. It looked so awesome. Now, I'll be honest, probably because I'm a Smaug fan, I wished he had lasted just a bit longer and had more lines. They kill him off before the main title even shows up, which is kind of like, the fuck? I think that was a poor editing choice. I feel like, really? But then again, it really, the book was even worse with that, Smaug showed up, he got killed, and that was pretty much it. Smaug was pretty much there in a blink, as far as the book goes, so I can't really criticize the movie for that. But it was just sad to see him go. But the King's death, the Master's death, pretty hilarious. Pretty freaking hilarious. Now, just one complaint I do have. It was the character played... Well, we all know the character's name is Alfred. I'm trying to think of the actor who plays him. I'm not familiar, but... Of all the characters I did want to die, it was him. And if I recall, I don't think he did. I think he just ran off. But my god, he was getting really, really annoying. They went a little too over the top at times, and it was just constant comic relief from him, being the coward, greedy, basically any negative trait you could think of, they just attribute to this guy. But it didn't distract me from the movie. I'm just saying, if there are complaints I did have about it, that'd be one of them. Too much of Alfred in the movie. Just cut him out. Who gives a shit? But like I was saying, yeah. Other than that, I really don't have any complaints. There is a whole lot less story and for just more action, but for what the movie is supposed to be about, right, the title, I enjoyed the hell out of it. The action scenes were some of the best I have seen in quite some time. And I know usually a guy prefers story over action, which is definitely true, but here they were interwoven pretty well together, and the action set pieces were incredible. The scope of it all would just made me orgasm. Everything looked incredible. I loved all the characters, seeing them again. All the sets are great. I think the CGI was pretty balanced in this one. Everything looked good. I love the whole story with how the war is shaped and the tactics they use. Everything from that perspective was great. And the score, that's what I think I can appreciate. Even though Smaug was dead and gone, they kept his essence there because of the score. Howard Shore You hear it, and it's nice that you just keep hearing Smaug's theme, even though he's long gone. But his threat remains in a different way, and for that, I just love it. Score, I definitely gotta download it. Buy it, download it, whatever. It was incredible. And yeah, so far as I can say, I don't see what so much complaining is for. I think it was a great. I would definitely put it as one of my favorite movies of all time, honestly speaking. I mean, every loose end was pretty much wrapped up, and they didn't get anything wrong from the books. Beorn was there, the Great Eagles were there. They had the bats and everything. Legolas, Orlando Bloom really kicked ass in this one. Although I'm a little confused with the time frame, since he's already sending him to search for the Ranger, which you all know, I'm assuming is the father of Aragorn. A little confused with that. As far as time frame, I know it's like 50 years, so I'm assuming he was Aragorn's father, but I have to refresh myself with that Tolkien mythology before I even delve into that, so I'm just going to leave that alone. I'll say one of my favorite characters too was Thranduil, played by Lee Pace, I believe. Lee Pace. Yeah, Lee Pace. He was great. I loved his character. And I also love, I hate to say it, but I do love Tauriel in this one. She was pretty badass. Could have used a little more, well, what can I say? As far as any Lord of the Rings villains, none of them really have that much to say as far as dialogue. So, Bolg and Azog, they're just their usual cowardly selves, but they were pretty great what they did. They had, like I said, I'm not going to keep saying it again and again, but they had some great action scenes. The way they were staged and the stunt work looked very good and very original. Not something you see every day in this movie. That's the thing I love about it. They really took it to new heights. And I'm surprised also say they actually made Saruman and Lady Galadriel and the other elf king, I forget his name at the moment. They actually made them somewhat relevant to the story, from the little cameo they had basically in the first one. And I really can't complain because I'm pretty much goddamn guaranteed it's going to be an extended cut. We all know this, and they'll probably show, because they hint at it, they show Saruman. After Sauron gets vanquished, I will deal with Sauron, and we all know he's going to get tempted to the dark side, become Sauron's servant, but I wish we had seen that happen, but as it is, I'm pretty satisfied. I'm also wondering if in Seneca you're going to see more Beorn, because you see Beorn start fighting, but you don't really see too much. You just see him get dropped in, and see about a few seconds of it, but I'm not complaining there. Now, see, this is why I'm going to say I love this one a lot, because to me, when I watched Return of the King for the first time, non-extended cut, you just watch it theatrical, it pissed me off. It really did. I thought it was just a whole lot of fighting and a few very poorly put together stories for me. But that's the thing about this one. I mean, let me go on that a little further. Why don't you Return of the King? When it's not the extended cut, it feels like it has so many holes. Like there's a love story they didn't develop at all, but at the end, it's supposed to be they're getting married now. What the hell? Okay, that wasn't built up at all. The whole scene with the Witch King, I will break him. Talking about kicking Gandalf's ass. In the movie, they didn't meet at all. It was like, well, that was stupid. And of course, the whole fate of Saruman was very anticlimactic. That's definitely one way of putting it. But when you watch the uncut version, which you had to buy separately, of course, for a boatload of money, then all that gets explained out. Then they build up the love story. Then they deal with Saruman. You see the Witch King actually beat Gandalf, and all that made sense. So to me, I know it's a very good film with a lot of awards, but to me, The Return of the King is only a complete movie when it's extended cut. I mean, if you ask me, Return of the King is the only one so far that even really needed an extended cut. The other two And the other 4, I guess you could say at this point, they were long enough as it is, honestly speaking. But that's the thing about this one. This third installment this time around, it felt complete for me. There's nothing more I really would have wanted or felt it really needed. I mean, everything to me was done in a satisfying way. That I know they're working with. They had so little to work with from the book, but I'm glad they expanded it in the right way. It doesn't feel overly long. You're surprised for a token. I mean, Peter Jackson film. It's gonna brush by just like that, and then it'll be over. But yeah. So that's my review of the movie. I would definitely give it about. I would give it 9 out of 10. I definitely would rank it about an A for me. For me, I wouldn't say it surpassed some of the other things I've watched this year, like maybe Interstellar or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, but this is still my top picks for 2014 for me as far as enjoying the movie. And so yeah, that's my review of The Hobbit: Battle of Five Armies, and definitely check it out, folks.